The Reserve Bank governor was hawkish on inflation, dovish on liquidity and entirely neutral on his continuation as governor. Latha and Ritu bring you the highlights of the credit policy.
As far as the question of my continuing in this position after September 4th goes, it would be cruel of me to spoil the fun the press is having with all its speculation. I am personally intrigued by all the letters I'm supposed to have written. Seriously, in all such cases, a decision is reached after discussion between the government and the incumbent. I'm sure you will know when there is news. I cannot do better than point you to the statements of the Finance Minister and the Prime Minister on this.
Governor Rajan's neutral stance on his extension was in sharp contrast to his hawkish stance on inflation.
There are potential disinflationary pressures. There are also potential inflationary pressures. The net effect is we've put a little more weight on upside risk to inflation, but we have to wait and see.
Is it then the end of the rate cut cycle? Many economists believe so.
The policy going forward is going to be all about transmission. Incrementally now, it's going to be more transmission rather than interest rate cuts per se.
The room for further rate cut is zero. As far as rate cut is concerned, it's all over.
To be fair, Rajan did not shut the door completely on rate cuts.
We haven't shifted stance to either a neutral stance or a tightening stance. We are still accommodative.
Net-net, however, the policy planted major doubts over a cut in August. For one, the impact of higher wages due to the 7th Pay Commission is yet to be factored into the forecast. Also, what is concerning is that services inflation has remained sticky at 5%, and with auto fares, house rents, tuition fee or water charges not going down anytime soon, only a sharp fall in food or crude oil prices could open up further room for rate cuts. On the liquidity front, the bond markets got comfort from RBI's commitment to progressively lower the average liquidity deficit in the system to a position which is closer to neutral by continuing to pump in liquidity when required.
Concern on liquidity has been a question about how long we propose to take to move from a situation of systemic liquidity deficit to one of close to neutrality. Now, this is something that depends on the market and external conditions. We will not commit to a time frame by which we will move to a neutral position, but we will be opportunistic in moving the system towards that goal.
For bankers, however, the resistance to cutting rates is due to fears of deposit reduction when $25 billion of FCNRB deposits mature in September. Rajan offered to help those who help themselves.
We may supply dollars in case of extreme volatility, but no one should take this for granted. We are also committed to supply short-term rupee liquidity to the extent needed.
So two key takeaways from the monetary policy. One, that the space for rate cuts from the Reserve Bank has genuinely diminished after the higher than expected April inflation. And secondly, now the onus of rate cut is with banks, and bankers tell us that unless the September-October period is over, when the $30 billion of deposits will move out of the system, they will be uncomfortable about dropping rates too much. So expect any cuts only in the last quarter of 2016, if that. In Mumbai, from the Reserve Bank headquarters with Ritu Singh, I'm Latha Venkatesh.